The church was silent, too silent. Sonia stood at the altar in her beautiful white wedding dress, holding a bouquet of red roses that were starting to shake in her trembling hands. 300 guests sat in the wooden pews behind her, staring at her back. Nobody was talking. Nobody was moving. The only sound was the tick-tock of the old church clock on the wall. The priest beside her kept clearing his throat nervously. He looked at his watch for the 100th time, then at the empty space where the groom should have been standing. Where Femi should have been standing. Sonia's best friend, Ada, rushed up to the altar with her phone pressed against her ear. Her face was pale, and her eyes were wide with worry. "Sonia," she whispered, loud enough for the front row to hear. "Femi's phone is going straight to voicemail. His brother can't find him anywhere. His car is still parked outside his hotel, but, he's just gone, gone." That one word made Sonia's knees feel weak. She looked down at her wedding ring, already on her finger from the rehearsal yesterday. Femi had slipped it on, with the biggest smile she'd ever seen. He had kissed her hand and said, "Tomorrow, I'm going to be the happiest man alive." But now, on their wedding day, with 300 guests watching and waiting, Femi had vanished into thin air. Sonia's mother stood up from the front pew, her fancy purple hat tilted to one side. "What's happening? Where is that boy?" Her voice echoed through the church, and suddenly everyone started whispering at once. The whispers grew louder and louder, like angry bees buzzing around Sonia's head. "Maybe he got cold feet," someone said. "I heard he was seeing someone else," another voice whispered. Poor Sonia. How embarrassing. Sonia felt tears burning in her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. Not here, not in front of all these people who were already treating this like juicy gossip instead of her breaking heart. Suddenly, Femi's mother, Mrs. Okafor, stood up from her seat. She was a tall woman with kind eyes, and right now those eyes looked just as confused and worried as everyone else's. "My son would never do this," she said firmly, her voice cutting through all the whispers. "Something is wrong. Something must have happened to him." A priest stepped forward. "Perhaps we should." But before he could finish, the church doors burst open with a loud bang that made everyone jump in their seats. A young man stumbled in, breathing hard like he had been running. It was Chidi, Femi's best friend and supposed best man. His suit was wrinkled, and there was a strange red stain on his white shirt. His eyes found Sonia immediately. "Sonia," he gasped, trying to catch his breath. "You need to come with me right now. It's about Femi. I found something terrible." The church erupted into chaos. People started shouting questions all at once. Sonia's father jumped up from his seat. Femi's brother started running toward Chidi. But Sonia couldn't move. She stood frozen at the altar, staring at the red stain on Chidi's shirt. In the back of her mind, a small voice kept asking one terrible question over and over. Was that blood? Chidi pushed through the crowd, ignoring everyone's questions. He reached the altar and grabbed Sonia's hand. His palm was cold and sweaty. "We don't have much time," he said in a low, urgent voice that only she could hear. "Femi left me a message 2 hours ago. He said if anything happened to him, I should give you this." He pulled a crumpled envelope from his jacket pocket. Sonia's name was written on it in Femi's handwriting, but the letters were shaky and rushed, not like his usual neat writing at all. With trembling fingers, Sonia tore open the envelope. Inside was a single piece of paper with just one sentence written in red ink. "Sonia, I'm sorry. I found out about the secret. Run." Sonia's heart stopped. Her mouth went dry. The church seemed to spin around her. What secret? Who found out? And most importantly, where was Femi? And why did he want her to run? Before she could ask Chidi what this meant, a loud crash came from the back of the church. Everyone turned to look. A man in a black suit stood in the doorway. He was tall and had his scar running down the left side of his face. He wasn't someone from the wedding. Sonia had never seen him before in her life. He pulled something from inside his jacket, and Sonia's blood turned to ice when she saw what it was. The man pulled out a photograph, not a weapon like Sonia had feared. But somehow, that made everything even more frightening. He held up the photo for everyone to see. Even from far away, Sonia could make out what it was. A picture of Femi standing next to a silver briefcase, shaking hands with someone whose face was blurred out. "Does anyone know where Femi Okafor is?" the man asked in a calm, cold voice that made Sonia's skin crawl. "I have some very important business with him." Chidi quickly stepped in front of Sonia, blocking her from the man's view. "Who are you?" he demanded. "This is a private ceremony." The man smiled, but it wasn't a friendly smile. It was the kind of smile a cat gives right before it catches a mouse. "My name is Mr. Taiwo, and your friend Femi has something that belongs to my employer. Something very, very valuable." Femi's mother stood up again, her voice shaking but brave. "My son is a good man. He works at the bank. He would never steal anything." "A bank?" Mr. Taiwo repeated slowly, still smiling that terrible smile. "Yes, that's exactly where he works. And that's exactly where he found what he shouldn't have found." Sonia's mind was racing. Femi worked as a manager at a bank. He had worked there for 5 years. He loved his job. He always came home talking about helping customers and organizing files. What could he have possibly found? Ada grabbed Sonia's arm. "We need to get you out of here," she whispered urgently. "Whatever this is dangerous." But Sonia couldn't move. She was staring at the note in her hand. They found out about the secret. Mr. Taiwo, he was part of Day. And if he was here, if he was looking for Femi, "Where is my fiancé?" Sonia heard herself ask, her voice stronger than she felt. "What have you done with Femi?" Mr. Taiwo's eyes locked onto hers. In that moment, Sonia felt like he could see right through her, like he knew every secret she'd ever kept. "I haven't done anything with him, Miss Sonia. Not yet. But I will find him, and when I do..." He left the sentence hanging in the air like a threat. Two more men in black suits appeared behind Mr. Taiwo. They looked like security guards, but meaner. One of them whispered something in Mr. Taiwo's ear. Suddenly, church security guards rushed forward. Sonia's uncle, who was a police officer, pushed through the crowd with 3 other officers who had been guests at the wedding. "You need to leave immediately," her uncle commanded. "You're disrupting a private event." Mr. Taiwo looked at the officers and laughed. Actually laughed. "Of course, officer, I apologize for the interruption." He started walking backward toward the door, his eyes never leaving Sonia. "But, Miss Sonia, I think you will see him very soon. Tell him that Mr. Bello wants his property back. Tell him he has 24 hours. After that, he drew his finger across his throat in a slicing motion. Then he was gone, disappearing through the church doors with his 2 companions. The church exploded into noise again. Everyone was talking at once. Some people were crying. Others were pulling out their phones to call someone or record what had just happened. Sonia's mother fainted, and her father had to catch her. But Sonia barely noticed any of it. She was reading Femi's notes again and again. "Run," had said. But run where? Run from what? Chidi pulled her aside, away from the chaos. "There's more," he said quietly. "The message Femi left me, he said something else. He said to take you to his apartment. He said there's a blue box hidden behind the bathroom mirror. He said everything you need to know is in that box." "What's in the box?" Sonia asked, her voice barely a whisper. "I don't know." Chidi's face was pale with worry. In his message, Femi sounded scared, really scared. "I've known him since we were kids, and I've never heard him sound like that before." He said Chidi stopped, like he didn't want to say the next part. "What did he say?" Sonia demanded, gripping his arm. Chidi looked into her eyes. He said, "If I don't make it to the wedding, it means they got to me. Protect Sonia. Don't let them find her. The world seemed to tilt sideways. Sonia's beautiful wedding dress suddenly felt too tight, like it was choking her. If I don't make it to the wedding, it means they got to me. Chidi, she whispered, feeling tears finally spill down her cheeks. Is Femi? Is he? Before Chidi could answer, Ada screamed. Everyone turned to look at what she was pointing at. There on the churchy stained glass window, someone had spray painted a message in big red letters. Give it back or the groom dies at midnight. Sonia didn't remember leaving the church. One moment she was staring at those horrible red words on the window, and the next moment she was sitting in the back of Chidi's car, still wearing her wedding dress, speeding through the streets of Lagos. Ada was beside her, holding her hand tightly. It's going to be okay, Ada kept saying, but her voice was shaking. We'll find him. We'll figure this out. But Sonia couldn't speak. Her mind kept playing Femi's voice over and over. The way he laughed. The way he said her name. The way he had promised her just yesterday that nothing would ever separate them. Give it back or the groom dies at midnight. She looked at her phone. It was 2:17 p.m. That meant they had less than 10 hours. 10 hours to find whatever Femi had taken. 10 hours to save the man she loved. We're here, Chidi announced, pulling up in front of Femi's apartment building. It was a nice building in a quiet neighborhood. Sonia had been here hundreds of times. They had picked out furniture together for his living room. They had cooked dinner together in his small kitchen. They had planned their future together on his balcony, watching the sunset. Now, as she looked up at his window on the fourth floor, the building felt strange and unfamiliar, like it belonged to a different life. They rushed upstairs, Chidi leading the way. He had a spare key to Femi's apartment. When he opened the door, everything looked normal. Too normal. The morning newspaper was still on the coffee table. Femi's favorite mug was in the sink. His laptop was closed on the desk. It looked like he had just stepped out for a moment and would be right back. But he wouldn't be back, not unless they found that blue box. The bathroom, Chidi said, and they all hurried down the hallway. The bathroom mirror was large, covering most of the wall above the sink. Chidi started feeling around the edges, looking for a way to remove it. Help me, he said, and together they carefully lifted the mirror off the wall. Behind it was a small hole in the wall, and inside that hole was a blue metal box, exactly like Femi had said. Sonia's hands shook as she reached for it. The box was cold and heavier than she expected. There was a small lock on it, but when she tried to open it, the lock clicked and fell away. Femi must have left it unlocked for her. She opened the lid slowly. Inside were three things: a USB drive, a stack of photographs, and a letter addressed to her. Ada peered over her shoulder. What are those photos? Sonia spread them out on the bathroom counter. They were pictures of documents, bank statements, transfer records, emails. She didn't understand most of them, but one thing was clear. They showed large amounts of money being moved from the bank where Femi worked to secret accounts overseas. This is millions of naira, Chidi whispered, looking at the numbers. Maybe even billions. One photograph showed a list of names. Sonia recognized some of them. They were important people, politicians, business owners, even a judge. Next to each name was a number, showing how much money they had hidden. Femi found out about this, Ada said slowly, understanding dawning on her face. He discovered that people at his bank were helping rich people steal money and hide it. That's the secret. Sonia picked up the letter with trembling fingers. It was dated 3 days ago, 3 days before their wedding. She began to read aloud. My dearest Sonia, if you're reading this, then something has gone terribly wrong. I'm so sorry. I never wanted to put you in danger. 3 weeks ago, I found these documents hidden in a file at the bank. At first, I thought it was a mistake, But then I kept digging and I realized what I had found proof that my bank manager, Mr. Bello, has been helping criminals steal money for years. I didn't know what to do. If I went to the police, Mr. Bello has friends everywhere. They would make the evidence disappear. They would make me disappear. So I copied everything onto this USB drive and hid it. I was going to wait until after our wedding, until we were on our honeymoon in London, and then I was going to give it to the international police there. They couldn't be bribed, they would help. But someone must have found out. Someone must have told Mr. Bello that I knew. Sonia, listen to me carefully. Take this USB drive to the police station on Victoria Island. Ask for Officer Ibrahim Musa. He's the only one I trust. He's honest. Give him everything in this box. He'll know what to do. I love you more than anything in this world. I'm sorry I couldn't make it to our wedding. I'm sorry for everything. But please, please be careful. Mr. Bello is dangerous. He won't stop until he gets this evidence back. All my love. Forever. Femi. Tears were streaming down Sonia's face by the time she finished reading. Ada was crying too. Even Chidi had to wipe his eyes. We have to go to this Officer Ibrahim right now, Ada said firmly. We give him the evidence. He arrests Mr. Bello. And then they'll have to tell us where Femi is. But Chidi was shaking his head, his face troubled. It's not that simple. If we go to the police station, Mr. Bello's people might be watching. They might grab us before we get inside. And if we give the evidence to the wrong officer, someone working for Mr. Bello, then we lose our only chance to save Femi. So what do we do? Sonia asked desperately. Before anyone could answer, a phone started ringing. But it wasn't any of their phones. The ringing was coming from inside the blue box. Sonia looked down and saw something she had missed before. A small phone taped to the bottom of the lid. An old cheap phone that wasn't hers or Femi's. With shaking hands, she answered it. Hello, Sonia, said a voice she recognized immediately. It was Mr. Taiwo, the man with the scarf from the church. I'm glad you found the box. Now, let's talk about your fiancé. Would you like to hear his voice? There was a rustling sound. And then, Sonia, don't give them anything. Don't. It was Femi. He was alive. But his voice was cut off suddenly, followed by a sound that made Sonia's blood run cold. Femi screaming in pain. Stop! Stop hurting him! Sonia screamed into the phone, her voice breaking. Ada grabbed her shoulder while Chidi moved closer, trying to hear what was being said. Mr. Taiwo's calm voice came back on the line. That was just a small taste in Sonia. Mr. Bello can be much more creative when he's angry. Now, shall we discuss terms? Sonia forced herself to breathe, to think clearly even though her heart was pounding so hard it hurt. What do you want? You know what we want. The USB drive, all the copies, all the photographs, everything your foolish fiancé stole from us. And if I give it to you, you'll let Femi go. Mr. Taiwo laughed, and it was the cruelest sound Sonia had ever heard. Of course, we're businessmen, not monsters. We just want our property back. You're liars, Chidi shouted, loud enough for the phone to pick up. If she gives you the evidence, you'll kill both of them. There was silence on the other end. Then Mr. Taiwo spoke again, and this time his voice was colder. Ah, the best man. Chidi, isn't it? You should teach your friend better manners. Mr. Bello doesn't like rudeness. Where is Femi? Sonia demanded, wiping tears from her face. I want proof he's still alive. I want to see him. Impossible. But I can offer you something better, a trade. You bring us the USB drive and all the evidence at 8 p.m. tonight. Come to the old warehouse on Apapa Road, the one near the harbor. Come alone. If you bring the police or anyone else, we'll know. And Femi dies immediately. That's only 6 hours away, Ada protested. Then I suggest you don't waste time, Mr. Taiwo replied. Oh, and Miss Sonia, don't try to be clever. Don't make copies. We have people everywhere at print shops, at cyber cafes, even at the police station. We'll know if you try anything. Bring the original USB drive, the original photographs, everything. Do you understand? Sonia's mind was racing. If she gave them the evidence, they would kill both her and Femi, that she was sure of it. They couldn't leave witnesses. But if she didn't give it to them, I understand, she whispered. Good girl, we'll see you at 8 p.m. Don't be late. Every minute you're late, Femi loses a finger. The phone went dead. For a moment, nobody moved. Nobody spoke. The only sound was Sonia's ragged breathing and the distant noise of traffic outside. Then Ada grabbed the USB drive from the box. We're going to Officer Ibrahim right now. We don't have a choice. No! Sonia snatched it back. You heard what he said. We have people everywhere, even at the police station. What if this Officer Ibrahim is one of them? What if we give him the evidence and Femi dies? But Sonia, Chidi said gently, if we don't go to the police, you walk into that warehouse and they'll kill you both anyway. At least with the police, we have a chance. Sonia looked down at the USB drive in her hand. It was so small, just a tiny piece of plastic and metal, but it held the power to destroy Mr. Bello and everyone working with him. It could send them all to prison for the rest of their lives. That's why they wanted it so badly. That's why they would do anything, hurt anyone to get it back. An idea started forming in her mind. A crazy, dangerous idea. What if we do both? She said slowly. Ada and Chidi looked at her confused. What if we make a copy of the USB drive? Sonia started. They said they'd know. Ada interrupted. Let me finish, Sonia said, her voice getting stronger. We make a copy, but we hide it somewhere they will never think to look. Then I go to the warehouse at 8 p.m. like they said, and give them what they think is the only copy. While I'm there, keeping them busy, you two take the real evidence to Officer Ibrahim. Absolutely not, Chidi said firmly. You're not going in there alone. It's suicide. He's right, Ada agreed. We need a better plan. But Sonia shook her head. There is no better plan. This is the only way to save Femi and make sure Mr. Bello goes to prison. If we all go to the police together, they'll kill Femi immediately. If we don't show up at the warehouse, they'll kill him. This is the only option. She looked at her two best friends, the people who had stood by her through everything. I need you to trust me. I need you to help me save him. Ada's eyes filled with fresh tears, but she nodded slowly. Chidi ran his hand through his hair, clearly hating this plan, but he nodded too. Okay, he said, but we do this smart. First, we make the copy somewhere they won't expect. He pulled out his phone and made a call. Hello, Auntie Grace? Yes, it's Chidi. Listen, I need a huge favor. 20 minutes later, they were at Chidi's aunt's house in a different part of Lagos. She was an elderly woman who didn't ask questions when Chidi said it was an emergency. She let them use her computer, which wasn't connected to the internet, to copy the USB drive. While the files transferred, Sonia changed out of her wedding dress into some regular clothes that Ada had in her car jeans and a simple top. Looking at the crumpled wedding dress lying on the bed, Sonia felt a fresh wave of pain. This morning, she had put on that dress dreaming of the happiest day of her life. Now she was preparing to walk into a trap to save her groom's life. The copy finished. They now had two identical USB drives. Chidi also printed out copies of the most important photographs using his aunt's printer. The real evidence stays with us, Ada said, holding up one USB drive. We take the copy to the warehouse. Sonia nodded, tucking the fake USB drive into her pocket along with the original photographs. If Mr. Bello's people checked the drive, they would see all the files. They wouldn't know it was a copy. At least, she hoped they wouldn't. They drove back across the city, the setting sun turning the sky orange and red. Sonia watched the clock on the dashboard tick closer and closer to 8 p.m. At 7:30, They parked 2 blocks away from Victoria Island Police Station. As soon as you're inside the warehouse, we're going straight to Officer Ibrahim, Chidi promised. We'll tell him everything. He'll send officers to get you out. What if he doesn't believe you? Sonia asked quietly. He will, Ada said with confidence. She clearly didn't feel he has to. They hugged each other tightly. Sonia didn't want to let go. These were her best friends. What if this was the last time she ever saw them? Be careful, Ada whispered. You too, Sonia replied. Then she got into Chidi's car. He insisted she take it and started driving toward Apapa Road, toward the warehouse, toward whatever waited for her there. The roads were getting darker and emptier. This part of Lagos was mostly industrial buildings and storage facilities. Not many people around, perfect for criminals who didn't want witnesses. At exactly 7:58 p.m., Sonia pulled up in front of the old warehouse. It was a massive building with broken windows and rusted metal walls. A single light bulb hung over the entrance. She sat in the car, her hands gripping the steering wheel so tight her knuckles turned white. She could still turn back. She could drive away, meet up with Chidi and Ada, and let the police handle everything. But then she thought of Femi. Femi, who always made her laugh. Femi, who brought her flowers every Friday. Femi, who was supposed to be her husband by now. Femi, who was somewhere inside that warehouse, probably hot and scared and praying she would save him. Sonia took a deep breath, grabbed the USB drive and photographs from her pocket, and stepped out of the car. The warehouse door was slightly open. She pushed it wider and stepped inside. The inside was dark, except for a few lights hanging from the ceiling. The warehouse was huge and mostly empty, with old boxes and broken equipment scattered around. Hello? She called out, her voice echoing. Footsteps emerged from the shadows. Mr. Taiwo appeared, along with 2 large men on either side of him. Behind them was someone else, a man in an expensive suit with grey hair and cold eyes. Mr. Bello. It had to be. Right on time, Mr. Taiwo said. I appreciate punctuality. Where's Femi? Sonia demanded. Mr. Bello smiled and snapped his fingers. The 2 large men disappeared into the darkness and returned, dragging someone between them. Femi. He was alive, but barely. His face was bruised and bleeding. His shirt was torn. He could hardly stand on his own. When he saw Sonia, his eyes went wide with horror. No, he croaked. Sonia, no. You shouldn't have come. I had to, she said, tears streaming down her face. I love you. How touching, Mr. Bello said, his voice dripping with fake sweetness. Now, do you have my property? Sonia held up the USB drive and the photographs. Let him go first. Mr. Bello laughed. I don't think you're in a position to make demands, young lady. Give me the drive. Now. Sonia looked at Femi. Their eyes met across the warehouse. She could see him trying to tell her something, trying to warn her, but she couldn't understand. She had no choice. Slowly, she walked forward and handed the USB drive and photographs to Mr. Taiwo. He immediately pulled out a laptop and plugged in the drive. His fingers flew across the keyboard, checking the files. Mr. Bello watched over his shoulder, his face tense. Please don't let them know it's a copy, Sonia prayed silently. Please, please, please. After what felt like forever, Mr. Taiwo nodded. It's all here, sir. Every file, every document. Mr. Bello's face relaxed into a satisfied smile. Excellent. He turned to Sonia. You've been very cooperative. I appreciate that. Now let us go, Sonia said. You have what you wanted. Of course, Mr. Bello said smoothly. Then he pulled out a gun. Sonia's blood turned to ice. You didn't really think I would let you leave, did you? Mr. Bello asked, almost kindly. You've seen our faces. You know our names. You're witnesses. No, Femi shouted, trying to break free from the men holding him, but they were too strong. Mr. Bello pointed the gun at Sonia's chest. Any last words? But before Sonia could speak, before Mr. Bello could pull the trigger, the warehouse doors burst open with a deafening crash. Police! Freeze! Drop your weapons! Dozens of police officers poured into the warehouse, their guns drawn, flashlights blazing. Leading them was a tall officer with kind eyes and a determined face. Officer Ibrahim. Everything happened so fast that Sonia could barely process it. Mr. Bello spun around, his gun still in his hand. How did you? He started to say, but Officer Ibrahim was faster. Drop the weapon now, Officer Ibrahim shouted. For a moment, Mr. Bello looked like he might actually shoot. His finger tightened on the trigger. Sonia closed her eyes, preparing for the worst. Then she heard the gun clatter to the floor. Hands in the air, all of you, Officer Ibrahim commanded. Mr. Taiwo and the other men slowly raised their hands. The two men holding Femi let him go, and he collapsed to the ground. Sonia ran to him, falling to her knees beside him. Femi, Femi, can you hear me? She cradled his bruised face in her hands. His eyes fluttered open. Even through the pain, he managed a small smile. You came for me, he whispered. Of course I did, Sonia said, tears of relief streaming down her face. I'll always come for you. Police officers swarmed Mr. Bello and his men, snapping handcuffs on their wrists. Mr. Bello was shouting about lawyers and false arrests, but nobody was listening to him anymore. Officer Ibrahim walked over to Sonia and Femi. His face was serious but kind. You two are very brave, he said, and very foolish. You should have come to me first. We did, said a voice from the doorway. Sonia looked up and saw Ada and Chidi rushing into the warehouse. Ada was still holding the real USB drive. They came to the station 45 minutes ago, Officer Ibrahim explained. They told me everything. We got here as fast as we could. He looked at Sonia with respect in his eyes. Your friend said you were stalling, buying us time. That was incredibly dangerous, young lady. I had to save him, Sonia said simply, still holding Femi close. Paramedics arrived and gently took Femi from Sonia's arms to examine his injuries. He had a broken rib, lots of bruises, and a cut above his eye that needed stitches. But he would be okay. He would heal. Officer Ibrahim had more officers secure the scene while he spoke with Ada and Chidi about the evidence. This USB drive, he said, holding it up carefully. This is going to bring down one of the biggest corruption rings in Nigeria. You've done your country a great service. It was all Femi, Chidi said. He's the one who found it. He's the hero. But Femi, sitting on a stretcher with a paramedic bandaging his head, shook his head weakly. Sonia's the hero. I got caught. She saved me. You're both heroes, Ada declared, and she hugged Sonia so tight she could barely breathe. You crazy, brave, wonderful heroes. Over the next hour, as police processed the crime scene and arrested Mr. Bello's associates, Officer Ibrahim explained what would happen next. With this evidence, we can connect Mr. Bello to over 50 different crimes: money laundering, bribery, corruption, and now kidnapping and attempted murder. He will spend the rest of his life in prison. What about the other names on those documents? Sonia asked. The politicians and business people. They'll all be investigated, Officer Ibrahim promised. This is bigger than just one man. You've helped us expose a whole system of corruption. It won't be fixed overnight, but this is a start, a real start. Mr. Bello was led past them in handcuffs, flanked by two large officers. He looked at Femi with pure hatred in his eyes. You've ruined everything, he spat. Everything I built. Femi, despite his injuries, sat up straighter on the stretcher. No, he said clearly. I stopped you from ruining everything. There's a difference. Mr. Bello opened his mouth to say something else, but the officers pulled him away and he disappeared into a police van. Mr. Taiwo followed shortly after, his scary confidence completely gone. He looked like just another criminal now, small and defeated. As the last of the police vehicles drove away, taking the criminals to jail, Sonia finally let herself relax. She sat down on the stretcher next to Femi, and he immediately took her hand. "I'm so sorry," he said for the 100th time. "I'm sorry I missed our wedding. I'm sorry I put you in danger. I'm sorry for everything." Sonia squeezed his hand gently, careful not to hurt his bruised knuckles. "Stop apologizing. You did the right thing. You were trying to expose criminals and corruption. You were trying to make things better. But I ruined our wedding day." Sonia looked at him, really looked at him. His face was battered and bruised. His expensive suit was torn and dirty. He had been through so much pain and fear, but his eyes were the same, kind and honest and full of love for her. "You didn't ruin anything," she said softly. "You just made our wedding story more interesting." Despite everything, Femi laughed. Then he winced because laughing hurt his broken rib. "Easy," the paramedic said. "No laughing for at least a week." "That's going to be hard," Femi said, still smiling at Sonia. "She's very funny." Ada and Chidi came over, both looking exhausted but happy. "So," Ada said with a grin, "when are you two going to actually get married? Because after all this drama, I want to see a proper wedding with no kidnappings," Chidi added. "And no criminals," Officer Ibrahim called from across the warehouse, overhearing their conversation. "I'll provide security personally, free of charge. It's the least I can do." Sonia looked at Femi. "What do you think? Should we try again?" "Definitely," Femi said. "But maybe we can wait a few weeks. I'd like my face to heal first. And I need to find a new job since my bank manager turned out to be a criminal mastermind." "That's fair," Sonia agreed. They sat there together in the warehouse, Sonia in her simple jeans and top, Femi in his torn suit, Ada and Chidi nearby, surrounded by police evidence markers and broken glass. It wasn't romantic. It wasn't what anyone would picture when they imagined a wedding day. But somehow, it was perfect. Because they were together, they were safe, and they had learned something important, that love meant more than just showing up to a wedding. It meant showing up when things got difficult and scary and dangerous. It meant being brave enough to fight for each other, even when the odds seemed impossible. "I love you," Femi said quietly. "I love you too," Sonia replied. They kissed gently, carefully, while Ada pretended to gag and Chidi Wolf whistled, making everyone laugh. 3 months later, the church was full again. 300 guests sat in the pews, but this time everyone was relaxed and happy. There were no mysterious men in black suits, no threatening messages, just friends and family gathered to celebrate love. Sonia stood at the altar in a new wedding dress, even more beautiful than the first one. Beside her stood Femi, completely healed now, looking handsome in a new suit. The priest smiled at them both. "We've already been through the ceremony once," he joked, "so I'll keep this brief. Femi, do you take Sonia to be your wife?" "I do," Femi said, his voice strong and clear and full of joy. "And Sonia, do you take Femi to be your husband?" Sonia looked into Femi's eyes and thought about everything they'd been through together. The fear, the danger, the tears, but also the courage, the hope, and the love that had gotten them through it all. "I do," she said. "Then by the power vested in me," the priest announced, "I now pronounce you husband and wife. You may kiss the bride." Femi and Sonia kissed while everyone cheered and clapped. Ada was crying happy tears in the front row. Chidi whistled so loud that people in the back complained. Even Officer Ibrahim, sitting near the middle in full uniform, was smiling and applauding. As they walked down the aisle together, hand in hand, husband and wife at last, Sonia thought about how their story could have ended so differently, but it didn't. Because sometimes, when you're brave enough to fight for what's right, when you're willing to risk everything for the people you love, miracles happen. And sometimes, the groom who vanished comes back. And the wedding finally happens. And everyone, especially the bride and groom, lives happily ever after. In the weeks that followed, Mr. Bello and 15 other people were convicted and sent to prison because of the evidence Femi found. The story was on the news, and many people called Femi and Sonia heroes. They didn't feel like heroes though. They just felt grateful, grateful to be alive, grateful to be together, and grateful that sometimes, even when bad things happen, good people can make them right again. True love means sacrifice. Sonia didn't run away when things got scary. She walked into danger to save the man she loved, showing that real love means being brave for each other. If this story touched your heart, please give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and don't forget to subscribe for more amazing stories about love, family, and life lessons. Hit that notification bell so you never miss our latest uploads. Thank you for watching.